Make it.
You ain't gonna make it. All right, matter of fact, we're leaving it. All right.
Let's get it, dude.
I hate that.
It's only gonna get bigger.
Hey,
You said it's a pup.
wait, I mean, he's about 9 months old, man. I come here, yes. You just.
He gonna fall airborne.
What the?
No, I'm good. All right, here we go. All right, we're talking about different types of pathogens. Cam,
Sir.
what is a communicable disease? Or what is a communicable pathogen?
Like, just.
What does communicable mean?
Disease, some of the most prevalent contagious.
No. I want you to read. I want you to tell me.
Oh,
Yeah.
cook then.
Ain't that where you like touch something and somebody else come after?
That's indirect.
It
can be spread
from
person to person.
Easily spread from person to person. Communicable or contagious, right? Communicable and contagious, same thing. Hey, super important to know. Communicable and contagious, same thing. So you may see on the test, and it may say a communicable disease is whatever, true or false. And then later on the test, it may say a contagious disease is, it's the same thing. Communicable, contagious, same thing. Okay? All right. 5 different types of pathogens. Shane, give me one. Jalen, give me one. Fungi. Leah, give me another one. Biofilms. Doug, give me another one. Bacteria. Adam, give me another one.
Viruses?
And Scott, give me parasites. Good. Okay. These 5 different types of communicable diseases, you will, or these 5 different types of communicable pathogens, you will need to know the characteristics of those. So you need to know the definition of bacteria, you need to know the definition of fungi, biofilms, viruses, and parasites. Okay, so if something is fungicidal, Dre, what does that mean? Okay, so here's the easiest way to remember this. Cidal, C-I-D-A-L, cidal. Cidal is the Greek word for suicide. Greek word for suicide. So, suicide means death. So, if something is fungicidal, then that means that it kills fungi. If it is virucidal, then it kills viruses, right? Suicidal, Greek word for suicide. So if you get a test question and it says disinfectants are fungicidal, true or false? True. Because disinfectants destroys or kills fungi, right? Cidal equals suicide or death. Everybody with me on that? Okay. So let's talk about bacteria a little bit. Two types of bacteria. Aaron, what's one type of bacteria?
Microorganism. Oh, I mean, non-pathogenic.
Say it again.
Non-pathogenic.
Non-pathogenic. B, what does non-pathogenic mean?
So, not dangerous, it's a good bacteria.
So non-pathogenic means that it is not harmful, right? Non-harmful bacteria. What's an example of that? Anybody?
Milk to,
Yogurt, cheese,
yeah, good.
and medicine.
How about penicillin?
I'm allergic to that actually. That's the crazy part.
Well, you're dead. You get it, you're up out of here. Sorry. Right? Non-pathogenic bacteria is non-harmful bacteria. So the other type of bacteria will be what? Pathogenic or harmful bacteria. Okay, so if I have a harmful bacteria, if I have a bacterial infection, two types of bacterial infections. One type is local. Marshall, what does local mean?
It means that it's as a pimple or abscess is confined to a particular part of the body.
Stop right there. Confined to a particular part of the body, right? So if I have a local infection, it is confined to a particular part of the body. So if I have a pimple is a local infection that is confined to my face, right? I got a pimple on my cheek, that's a local infection. The other type of infection is what, Mike?
Systematic infection?
Systemic.
Systemic?
Systemic infection. Systemic infection means what, Adam?
It's spread all over.
Spread all over my entire body. So an example of systemic infection would be what, Francisco?
MRSA. Chicken.
Hmm?
Oh,
mean-
like chicken pox?
All over your body. Systemic infection, right?
Yeah.
So, also, if I have a pathogenic bacteria, I got the flu, right? I got fever, I got body chills, my body aches, systemic infection, affecting the whole body. What's up? Absolutely. I'm not talking about anything that's not on the state board. If it's not a state board question, I'm not talking about it.
those are the two infections you said?
Two types of infections: local infections, systemic infections. Want to circle back around and talk about a local infection or a pimple. Typically, some characteristics of a local infection or a pimple is going to have pus and it's going to have inflammation. Need to know the definite state board test question. Need to know the characteristics of a local infection, pus, and inflammation. Okay. So now let's talk about staphylococcus. Staphylococcus. Okay. It's very important that you know the characteristics of staphylococcus. So, staphylococcus characterized by growing in clusters. Okay? How am I going to remember that staphylococcus, a characteristic is that it grows in clusters? I'm going to tell you. Did you say that? Right here. Staph. Staph, Greek word for group, right? So if you think about office staff, people, that helps you remember that a characteristic of staphylococcus is that it grows in clusters. Staff equals groups. So that is the characteristic of staphylococcus, is that it grows in clusters. So if you're staff, you think of groups, that will lead you to the correct answer. You guys are so lucky, by the way, because people like Izzy and Shane, people that took this before they just changed this, there was about six different characteristics of bacteria that would be on the state board test that you had to know. There was streptococcus, staphylococcus, cocci, diplococcus. Yes, there was a bunch of different characteristics of different bacteria that you had to know. Spirilla, all those different things. So with this new addition, they've taken those out, and the only one that you need to know is staphylococcus. So you guys are lucky. You also need to know, I need somebody read me the definition of MRSA, please. Methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus.
Abbreviated MRSA, a type of infectious bacteria that is highly resistant to conventional treatments such as antibiotics.
Okay, you need to know the definition of that. That's a test question. And myobacterium, read the definition of that, someone please.
What was that you just read off?
That was, hold on one second, Jalen. That was MRSA, or methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. MRSA. MRSA. Okay, what's up, Marshall?
Is there a reason that they took out the other ones?
Went down in Tampa for this one. I don't know. All right. Hey, don't complain about it. Right. Okay. All right, Jalen, go ahead.
A large family of bacteria that is often found in soil and water.
Myobacterium. Need to know the definition of that. Test question. Okay. I am about to give you guys, this is 100% no doubter state board test question. Where is bacteria found? Warm, dark, damp, and dirty places. Warm, dark, damp, and dirty places. That's where bacteria is found. Warm, damp, dark, dirty places. So now pay attention to this, everybody. Because I'm about to tell you how state board, no, not state board, but NIC, I'm about to tell you how they will try to trick you with this question. So the question will say, bacteria is found in dark, damp, and dirty places, true or false? And a lot of you will mark true, and you will get it wrong, because they omitted warm. Right? It's dirty work, isn't it? It's dirty work, right? Another way that I've seen this done with this test question is it will say, bacteria can be found in blank. A, warm places. B, dark places. C, damp places. D, all the above. You have to know warm, dark, damp, dirty. All four of them. Don't get tricked on that question.
But how does that work? If you said A is warm, B is, it's three out of the four. You said B is all of the above. But you're still missing one.
Well,
That's all I'm
so it would say, A, warm and dark, B, damp and dirty, C, all the above, something like that, right? So you have to make sure that you have, that it's all four of them, okay? Quick question. Where do you think, what qualifies warm, damp, dark, dirty, what qualifies, in the barbershop as something like that, where bacteria can grow?
I know two of the bubbles.
Shade.
Ding, 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 towels, right? Towel, dirty towel bin, where else? Towels. Warmer. So here's the deal. That's why it's super, super important that at night, when you're in the shop, that you turn that towel warmer off, that you open it up, that you take those towels out, right? If there's ever a time that somebody either A, leaves the towel warmer on, or B, turns the towel warmer off, but leaves the towels in the warmer, those towels you gotta put them in the dirty towel bin. You cannot use those towels because of the bacteria, right? Anywhere else? Anywhere else that you can think of that bacteria may grow?
Chair.
That could definitely be in a highlighter machine. Definitely be in a highlighter machine. Washing machine, shampoo bowls. Shampoo bowls, right? Okay. Shampoo bowls. All right. See, let's talk about viruses.
Man,
Yeah, let's talk.
it is easy.
Okay, super important to know the definition of a virus. I need somebody to read the definition of virus, please.
Virus is a submicroscopic particle that infects and cells in the cells of a biological organism. A virus is capable of replication only through taking over the host cell's reproductive function.
A parasitic submicroscopic particle that infects and resides in the cells of biological organisms. You must know that definition. Viruses, you must know that definition. Okay, so let's talk about prevention. What is number one way to prevent viruses?
Wash my hands.
Wash your hands. Number one. Hand washing and disinfecting is the number one way to prevent a virus. How many viruses produce signs of illness within how many days of
48 hours.
infecting?
48.
10 to 14 days. So a virus can, you can be exposed to a virus. I'm talking about exposure. You can be exposed to a virus. The virus can lay dormant for 10 to 14 days before most viruses. So what you need to know is that most viruses produce signs of illness within 10 to 14 days. So just imagine that for a second. That's like wild, right? Is that you're exposed to a virus. Like Malik just believes he's exposed to a virus. And so Malik got the mask. So Malik has the mask on, but he's not gonna know if he's exposed at him for about 10 to 14 days. So a little bit here after the Super Bowl, and Malik is sick. 10 to 14 days. Super important to know. Test question. Most viruses produce signs of illness within blank. A, 7 days. B, 5 days. C, 10 to 14 days. D, 48 hours. Gotta know 10 to 14 days. Okay? Which on the side note, that was probably what was most interesting about COVID, right? is that COVID was so contagious because most viruses, right? They can survive outside of a host for about how long?
48.
Anybody?
Like say something.
Hmm? Like, so if there's a virus on this table, right? We know that viruses need a host. They need a host, right? Right? Same thing with bacteria. Like you gotta have a host. So bacteria, viruses, or whatever, they can't live without a host. Typically around 12 hours, right? Something like that. COVID was much longer than that. COVID that lived without a host for some days, right? And it was very contagious through indirect transmission as well as direct transmission. And it was dormant. So knowing then what we know now, we're like, hey, you have to quarantine for 5 days. Well, 5 days from what? Right? 5 days from when you felt sick, well, you probably already contaminated other people because by the time that you felt sick, then the virus was already there, right? So that's what was so interesting about COVID. I like everybody to pull out their phone and look up the HPV, human papilloma virus. Look up the pictures.
That was nasty. Whoa.
You don't want to see it no more?
You gonna have that for a minute. They say minimum 2 years.
HPV. Somebody please read the definition of HPV.
An infection that causes warts in various parts of the body. HPV is the most common sexually transmitted infection. People with HPV do not develop symptoms but can still infect others through sexual contact. Symptoms may include warts on the genitals or surrounding skin. There is no cure for the virus, and warts may go away on their own.
Okay, important things to know about HPV. Virus that resembles small black dots, usually clustered in groups. Also a cutaneous viral infection. Now I'd like for everybody to look up the herpes simplex virus.
Alright, time to be scarred.
The herpes.
There's one. Somebody please read the definition of the herpes simplex virus.
The virus caused a contagious sore and goes up and around an hour.
Also, you need to know that it's an inflammatory disease of the skin caused by the viral infection and characterized by small vessels that are in clusters. You need to know the characteristics of both of those. Again, an inflammatory disease of the skin is caused by a viral infection and characterized by small vessels in clusters. Highlight that. You need to know the definition of that.
I don't see that.
Vince.
You don't see that?
You gotta scroll down.
If you click on the definition of the word, like
It's gonna
click on
work.
the word, it'll pop up the definition.
Yeah,
Me neither.
Biggie bag.
Okay, everybody see that? Everybody got that? Okay. Any questions on HPV or the herpes simplex virus? Okay. Let's talk a little bit about blood-borne pathogens. You will need to know the definition of blood-borne pathogens: disease causing microorganisms carried in the body by blood or bodily fluids. I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about hepatitis and HIV, other than tell you that you need to know the definitions of each of those. Okay. Any questions? Any questions on that? Any questions on that part of viruses?
So I got a question about this. I'm looking at the picture for the herpes, and it's on the. So it just pop up anywhere in the body, or just basically anywhere?
You said you weren't talking
About blood-borne pathogens and HIV. Okay, so we're going to move into fungi. Jackie, can you tell me the definition of fungi, please?
Yeah, single-cell organisms that grow in irregular masses and include molds, mildews, and yeast. They can produce contagious diseases such as rheumatism.
Okay, so Aaron, is there good and bad fungi? Is it all bad? Is it all good?
You say yes.
Yes to what?
And bad.
Good and bad? Dre, you agree with that? Jazz, give me an example of a good fungi. Mold. I'm talking about like mold that's like on bread, right? So in some countries, mold is like it's a delicacy. People eat mold in some countries, right? Yes, cottage cheese, right? Blue cheese, right? You don't like blue cheese? Anybody here like blue cheese? Hey, you don't like blue cheese? Little blue cheese on your wings? Hey, lunch?
We have brains.
Lunch?
He's blue cheese on the wings.
Hey, it's Wing Wednesday, right? You get a little blue cheese on your wings? No?
You said you had to.
not like
I didn't say
Bro,
that.
Worse than range.
Hey, so they're good. They're good fungi, bad fungi.
Fire.
An example.
Jesus, like-
Hey, come on back with me. An example of bad fungi. Let's look it up. I would like for you to Google a picture of Tene Barbe, please.
Man. Oh, this is what real OG got. No, seriously.
I know, right?
Tinea Barbe. B-A-R-B-A. Tene Barbe.
I'm not sure I can stomach this.
You're not even looking it up, gang. You clipping your ear.
Cam, give me the definition, please, of Tene Barbe.
The most frequently encountered fungal infection resulting from hair surface is Tene
Click,
barbae.
hey, click on the-
Oh,
yeah.
gotcha. I got you. Also known as barber's itch, a superficial fungal infection that commonly affects the skin. It is primarily limited to the bearded areas of the face and neck or around the scalp.
Hey, so the practical part of this is super important that you're able to identify. That's why I want you to look at it. So you're able to identify and know what these are, because you will run into it. You absolutely run into it.
So how do you like approach something like that? Somebody comes in the chair or wants to get a cut or something, and you notice it, you know what it is. I know you tell them you probably can't do it, but that's just it.
Sir, in your bid analysis, I discovered that you might have some Tene Barbe, so unfortunately, I'm unable to perform the service today.
Scram.
Simple. Tene Barbe, you need to know the characteristics, you need to know what that is. I'd like everybody to look up Tene capititis. Look up that picture.
Okay, with this one, it's different.
People are nasty, Pete.
It looks like it.
Have you had to cut somebody before and like find out they got any of this stuff?
I'm about to tell you a story about it in just a second. Izzy, can you read the definition for Tene capititis, please?
Yes, then. A fungal infection of the scalp characterized by red papules or spots at the opening of hair follicles.
Okay, again, need to know the characteristics, need to know the definition of Tene capititis. You tell us. All right. Let's look up ringworm.
McDonald's has some shit. They come in over 15 minutes before, and then when I get there, put in another coat. Make a meal.
Seth, can you read me the definition of ringworm, please? Click on the word.
Fungal infection of the skin that appears in circular.
Yep, a fungal infection of the skin that appears in circular lesions. That's the characteristic of ringworm. So, ringworm is a common fungi that you will run into in the barbershop. It's a common fungi. So, let's talk a little bit about the practicality of how you handle ringworm in the shop. Typically, you will see ringworm in the summer on kids. Ringworm is and extremely contagious fungi. And so this is how you handle it. If you are cutting someone, and while you're performing the cut, you notice that they have ringworm, then you will finish the cut, because your clippers are already contaminated. They're already your implement that you have used is already contaminated. What you have to do when you see ringworm, you want to make sure that the implements that you are using does not touch anything else. So immediately, what you want to do is you want to grab, I would recommend like a paper towel or something. Take your implement, your comb, your brush, you lay it on that paper towel. You wash your hands immediately, you put on gloves. And then from there, you finish the cut. Anything that you use, you put it on that paper towel or towel or whatever. After you use that, then you have to take your clippers apart. You have to disinfect them. You have to go through the infection control pyramid. And you have to take them, you have to take the head off of them. And you have to clean the inside and outside, right, of those clippers. The first thing that you do when you finish the service, you take the gloves off, you wash your hands down to the elbows. Then you put a new pair of gloves on. You're gonna go back in. The very first thing that you're going to do is you're going to clean the dirt and debris off, right? Disinfect everything that is at, obviously from the chair, everything that's there. Keep everything separate. Everything that came in contact with that infected area. Now, they have ringworm up here. Me personally, I'm washing the cape as well. I'm not reusing the cape as well. Anything that came in contact with that customer, I'm disregarding, I'm cleaning, and I'm shutting down. But the most important thing that you can remember, I need you guys to remember, the most important thing that you have to do when you're dealing with these funguses, and we're gonna talk about lice in a minute. Lice is a totally different ballgame than ringworm. But the number one thing that you have to remember is you have to protect yourself, right? So that's why I say wash down to your elbows, because as a barber, you don't consciously remember if you're cutting and you touch yourself here, and that's how contagious a ringworm can be, where you touch yourself and it can just spread like that. So that's why you wash down to the elbow. That's why you do all that. And then if you're using like a shampoo bowl, then you have to go back and you have to disinfect the shampoo bowl, right?
Okay, so what if you have like a booked Saturday or something like that?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What do? You tell me. What are you gonna do?
I was asking you from like somebody who's been through it perspective.
I'm just telling you, what's your number one responsibility as a barber?
Keep the public safe from infection.
Period. So I don't think if you had a book Saturday, if you told somebody, hey, I'm running 20 minutes behind because I just had a client with ringworm and I have to go through and properly sanitize my station and my equipment, I don't think anybody's gonna have a problem with that. And if they do have a problem with it, it's probably not somebody that I wanna cut. Right? But also, that's why it's so important, and I say this over and over and over again, that's why it's so important that you guys perform a scalp analysis before you start cutting the hair. That's why you comb through the hair, that's why you comb through the beard, because you're looking for any signs of any of these fungi, any of these parasites or anything like that, so that you can. Now, there's some cases that you can't avoid it. In the case that I'm talking about, that you see in the summertime, and especially in kids who like play baseball or softball, and they're sharing like batting helmets, stuff like that, is then the kid can come in and they have ringworm on their scalp. Like I'll give you an example. There was a kid that came in and he wanted a mohawk, and he had hair like about as thick as Cam's, and so it's impossible to see the ring. Even if you're combing through the scalp, you can do whatever, but you can't see the ringworm on the scalp. So then when you did the first skin line, it was just right here, right behind the ear. It was just right there. And so so at that point in time, there's your clippers already touched it, your brushes already touched it. So ringworm, you finish the cut. Removing the parasites, because with head lice you do not. So let's talk about parasites. Justin, read the definition of parasite, please.
The organism that grows seeds and shelter on the inside of another organism, while contributing nothing to the survival of the organism.
Okay, so you need to know the definition of parasite. One thing that I'd like for you to highlight that's super important is that the last sentence when it says parasites must have a host to survive. That is a state question. That's going to be a true and false question. Parasites must have a host to survive. And I'm going to tell you again how they're going to trick you with this one, because you're going to see a test question that's going to say bacteria must have a host to survive. True or false? False. Parasites need a host to survive. So that's how you see it. That's how people get parasites and bacteria mixed up.
First one with bacteria.
That bacteria does not need a host to survive. Parasites do. All right. Pediculolus capititis. Look it up. Otherwise known as head lice.
We good up now, man. We not but down.
No, it's not true.
That game.
I'm not looking at that.
So understand this. Understand this.
Skin crawl.
Pediculolus capititis, infestation of the hair and scalp with head lice. Okay, so I need everybody to understand this. This is practicality in the shop. Is that lice are living, breathing parasites that can move. They can jump. Right? If you come in contact with a customer that has head lice, you stop the service immediately. Immediately, you stop the service. So you may ask, well, why would I keep going with the service with ringworm and stop the service with head lice? And I'll tell you why. Because head lice are living, breathing parasites that can jump from one host to the other. So as a barber, you are in danger if you perform the service of them jumping to you. And where would they jump on your body? Got hair on your arms, right? And they just work their way up, right? They work their way around, right? What are you gonna? I don't know about the crab. I don't know. I don't know. So you're doing too much. You're doing too much. I don't know about it.
We can see the I even knew
That's how we
it.
do it.
Hey, oh God. My kid on
Hey, hold on, guys.
It would not answer the question, show me images of different stages of, lice or scabies, because it was, the previous lice, it was, harmful.
Right.
Show me the picture.
Right, so,
I got rid of it.
yeah, so like, Malia just asked me, she said, is it true that black people cannot get, hair lice? That's absolutely false.
True.
That's false.
Who told y'all that?
Man.
So listen, let's bring this into practicality in the shop. We had a student that, there was a kid that came into the shop. He came in, it was the end of summer, hadn't been here all summer. And, so he had like 3 months of hair growth. This kid getting back to school haircut. Dad said, hey, I want a skin fade, and we wanna take him down low. So the student did not perform a scalp analysis and just start cutting. So the student said, T. Hold on, no, T. So I go over, and you can see all the lights just moving around in his head, and they're just jumping around, just like that. It's thousands of them, just jumping around.
How do you get rid of lice?
Say that money out, gang.
Now you gotta go to the doctor. You gotta get a prescription. I mean, there's some over the counter stuff, but most likely you have to get the a medicated shampoo, a prescription shampoo.
So would it be good
So-
for you as a barber to buy that?
On in and out, like just like all over.
I mean, I don't think each his own.
Yeah, that's kind of what they look like. Like they're and I mean, and they're just jumping around all over. So you stop the service immediately.
Is it most common for kids, right?
I was more about
Come across
it.
adults.
I haven't seen the lights, but it's right. They're just looking for hope. All right, so listen up. So this is what you gotta do. You gotta stop the service immediately. Stop the service immediately. Immediately. You have to go, and you gotta wash down to the elbow, right? And now this particular student, he had a hat on, but if he didn't have a hat on, now I'm telling you, you need to go shampoo your hair immediately, medicated shampoo your hair immediately, right? Because you can't, I mean, they're small, they're like ants, but you can't see them all, so you don't know where they're jumping. So in this particular case, what this student did, he took all of his stuff. So he took his clippers, he took them apart and all that stuff like that. But everything else, anything else, he just trashed it. Just like, man, I don't want to just throw it away.
I was
Right?
gonna ask that, you don't have to trash the clippers? Like, you just gotta take them apart and clean them?
No, I mean, because
They done for me, I was.
yeah, because there's no host, right?
Matter of fact,
So,
put
if lice gets on the clippers, then you disinfect it. I mean, the clippers are not a host that the lice can live in.
But
So
what
you
if there's
disinfect it and clean it.
hair in the clipper?
That's why you disinfect it and take
Clean
it
it.
out.
I mean, yeah, but all right, never mind. Y'all ain't gonna hear nothing else from me.
Right.
Right.
But it's very important that you stop the service because you're putting yourself at risk. That's why with lice you don't continue with the service because you're dealing with a living organism compared to ringworm. Make sense?
I was one of the people that thought that black people can't get lice. So
You know
why
you
is it
were.
less common for black people to get lice and straight hair?
I don't know that it's less common. I think that it's really just about the amount of hair that you have right? So if, with shorter hair, like, they're more noticeable, right? With, like, with this kid's hair, this kid it was straight hair, and he had hair, I mean, just imagine like double the amount of hair that like Pierce has. So it's quite a bit of hair, and so I just think that's kind of what the difference is, because it's more hair. That's why in a lot of cases, like girls, right? Girls almost more, like little girls almost more than guys, because of the amount of hair that they have. Francis, you had a question?
So it needs a host to survive. Can a lice survive on clothes or a chair for any amount of time?
I don't know the amount of time that it can survive, but I mean it needs like an active host, because it needs to, for lack of a better word, almost like feed, I guess.
Ain't that unlike the question I just asked with the clipper?
Bro, you can clean the clipper.
You can still clean the chair.
Okay, I need, somebody need the definition of scabies, please.
A contagious skin disease caused by the itch mite, which burrows under the skin.
Okay, you need to know the definition of scabies. And look that up, please.
My stomach.
Look it up.
Yeah, look it up.
Itch mite, which burrows under the
2
skin.
days to survive without a host.
I gotta skip a page, but I cannot do that on screen.
You don't have hair to get lights.
I don't care, bro. Look, seeing that, bro,
There you go. All right, so listen up. Hey, so it is 10:50. Hey, listen up. It is 10:54. We will stop here today, and we'll do our best to try to. So this is kind of how this will work. We'll do our best to try to get through this last day of lecture tomorrow. Then I will break you guys up into groups. We will do some teach the teachers. We'll get the teachers assigned. Do that next week, and then from there, then we will figure out when we will test on this.
So you can come at them or do.
It is 10:55. I will give you guys 15 minutes, and then when you come back from the 15-minute break, then we're back on comps, everybody. And tomorrow we will talk about what comps look like for next week, for the month of February. Okay? All right, we're good.
That shit like $7, ain't it?